Good day to everyone. We are Group 5 of BSI Trido in the subject called Industrial Marketing System, and here we are to discuss the topic called Price Strategy. I'm Frank Lloyd Magbitang. I will be discussing the introduction for this topic. First, we must know what are the learning objectives of this topic. The first objective is to understand the function of pricing. Next is to learn and understand the factors that need to be considered in pricing. And lastly, learn the various approaches and criteria in pricing a particular product. Overview, as for Alex Fernandez, a head of consumer health Unilab Incorporated, he said that pricing is a critical ingredient in the marketing mix that differentiate the brand. In some cases, it is the major factor that determines the brand image. So now, what is price? Price is the amount of money asked or given for something. As per the first definition, we know that the price is the value of a product that is expressed in terms of money. So for the next definition, price is also the twin element of sales volume, which when combined makes up the sales revenues. Price of the product is directly influences the sale volume, and in result of it is the sales revenue of the company. What is pricing? Pricing of any product is extremely complex and intense, as it is a result of a number of calculations, research work, risk-taking ability, and understanding of the market and the consumers. Companies has no power to set whatever the price they want. Before they price a product, management do consider everything like the ability of their consumers to pay, the condition of the market, their competitors, and many, many more. So next, pricing is the twin component of product quality which when combined make up what is called product value. Product value is the perceived worth of a product or service in the eyes of the customer. And lastly, pricing has the dual marketing function of making products affordable to their target market and at the same time reflecting the value of the product. Knowing how the customer sees the value of the product determines the price that the customer is willing to pay in order to obtain that product or that service. So now we're heading to how the management of the companies considers everything before they price a product. First, segment of the product or product segmentation is when a company makes a changes into their product in order to produce various products from it to attack different kinds of customers. It allows the company to reach new markets and have a closer look to their consumers. How will they engage the new products created? The next is the ability of a consumer to pay for the products. Figuring out how much the customers willing to pay into certain products or services allows the company to set the price closer to the preference of their consumers in order to persuade their customers to avail the products or services that they will provide. The third one is the conditions of the market. Market conditions, it is related to the attractiveness of a products or services in overall market. It also measures how much of a good or service a consumer wants and how much they're willing to pay. So next is the actions of the competitors. Figuring out what are the strategies that their competitors will be doing will be a big advantage to the company and allows them to have a counter strategy against their competitors. The fifth factor to consider is the cost of manufacturing. Considering the cost of the design and the manufacturing of the products is vital. It allows the company to ensure if they are going to have more earnings or profit than the loss. And lastly, profit margins. It allows the company to gauge the degree which if they are earning or not. It represents how many sales turned into profits. So now we'll be discussing what are the factors that we need to consider in doing pricing. First are the internal factors. Product costs. It refers to the cost in creating a product. It includes direct labor, raw materials, consumable production supplies, and the factory overhead. We can also consider the cost of labor required in delivering a service to a customer. Next is the objectives. While fixing the prices of the products or services, the management should also consider the objectives of the company. For example, if the objective is to capture a large market, then they may set for a lower price. And if their objective is to increase their return of the investment or ROI, they will set a higher price. So of course, if there's a internal factors, we'll be having a external factors. So first for the external factors is what we call the market demand. While we are fixing the prices, of course, consider the demand is obviously has a big impact in the pricing since it affected by the competitors, the potential customers, their perspective, and their capacity and willingness to pay, and etc. And the last external factors are the competitors. Management needs to know what is the status of the competition in the market. Of course, if it's high, the price may be kept low to effective, and if the competition is low, the price may be high. So now we are proceeding to the cost-based pricing strategy. Is used when there is a relatively little, if any, or direct competition or when buyers are not price sensitive. Cost-based pricing is a pricing method that is based on the cost of production, manufacturing, and distribution of a product. It is the practice of setting prices based on the cost of the products or services being sold to the customers. Profit percentage is added to the cost of an item which will be added to the price when it will be sold. For example, Jeremy, an attorney who runs his own office which costs $450,000 a year, and he expects to have a 3,000 working hours in the upcoming year. And yet he said he wants to earn $75,000 for the upcoming year. So how much will Jeremy add to his normal billing rate in order to earn $75,000 for the upcoming year? So to know how much will Jeremy add to his normal billing rate in order to earn $75,000, we'll just simply divide $75,000 by 3,000 working hours and we will get $25. So how about if you want to know what is Jeremy's new billing rate for the upcoming year? So we all gonna need to do is to divide $450,000 by his 3,000 working hours and we get Jeremy's normal billing rate $150. Then we just gonna add $150 by $25 and we will get $175. $175 is Jeremy's new billing rate for the upcoming year. So now, what is the advantage of doing cost-based pricing strategy? The only advantage of the strategy is that a business can be assured of always generating a profit as long as the markup figure is sufficient and unit sales meet expectations. Now for the disadvantage of cost-based pricing strategy. First is the approach routinely results in prices that diverge from the market rate. So either the company is selling at too high a price and is attracting too few customers, or it is selling at too low of a price that a customer would otherwise have be happy to pay, but the company is losing its sales revenue or profit. So here are some definitions to the words that may we encounter before in our discussion that is new to our ear. So first is markup. Markup is a standard percentage based on cost is adopted. It is an increase in the cost of a product to arrive at its selling price. The amount of this markup is essentially the gross margin of the seller, which is needed to pay for the operating expenses and generate a net profit. And lastly, target profit. Target profit is the prices are set towards attaining a satisfactory rate of return. It is the expected amount of profit that the managers of a business desire to achieve by the end of the designated accounting period. So that's all for me. Thank you for listening. So now we can proceed to the next reporter.
Good day, everyone. I am Alondra P. Puertas, and I will discuss today about the target profit pricing and unit cost pricing. First, let's start on the target profit pricing. Target pricing or target costing is not just a method of costing, but a management technique. The prices can be determined based on the market conditions and other factors such as level of competition, cost switching, etc. Target profit pricing is also known as target profit analysis. It is a strategy that tells the management the total units to be sold to achieve the targeted profit for a particular period. Under this strategy, after considering total costs and profit targets, the management decides on the total production and sales for a particular period, which can be a month, quarter, or even a financial year. For our profit pricing formula, we have price is equal to the quantity of total cost plus the desired percentage of return of investment all over total units sold. To better understand our formula, let's have an example. Company ABC Limited has an objective of achieving a required rate of return of say 20% on goods that they sell. The company manufactures pencils and have already invested 1 million pesos in the business. The cost of each pencil is 16 pesos. Here, we are assuming that the sales can hit 50,000 units in a year. First, we have to list out the givens in the problem. We have a rate of return of 20%, an investment of 1 million pesos, a cost per unit of 16 pesos, and a unit sales of 50,000 units. Now, putting all these values in our formula, we have the quantity of 16 times 50,000. 16 is the cost per unit and 50,000 is our units. So we multiply this to have the total cost plus the quantity of zero point 0.2, which is our rate of return, times 1 million, which is our investment, all over 50,000 units. Now, what we get is 20 pesos. So to achieve the required rate of return, the company should sell the pencil at 20 pesos each. Now, let's move on to the unit cost pricing. Unit cost refers to the amount of money needed to produce a unit of something and plays a role in determining the profitability and price of a product. The cost per unit is derived from the variable costs and fixed costs incurred by a production process divided by the number of units produced. So our formula for unit cost pricing is the quantity of total fixed costs plus total variable costs all over total units produced, wherein variable costs such as direct materials vary roughly in proportion to the number of units produced, while fixed costs such as building rent should remain unchanged no matter how many units are produced. Let's have an example. ABC Company has a total variable cost of $50,000 and total fixed cost of $30,000 in May. which it incurred while producing 10,000 widgets. For our given, we have variable cost of 50,000, fixed cost of 30,000, and number of units of 10,000. Now putting all these values in our formula, we have $30,000 plus $50,000 all over 10,000. Computing this, we will get an $8 unit cost. That's how simple the unit cost pricing is. Let's have another example. In the following month, ABC produces 5,000 units at a variable cost of $25,000 and the same fixed cost of $30,000. So what changed is our variable cost and our fixed costs remain unchanged no matter how many units are produced. So our given, we have variable cost of $25,000, fixed cost of $30,000, and number of units of 5,000 units. Again, we will put these values in our formula. We have the quantity of $25,000 plus $30,000 all over 5,000. Now we will have a unit cost of $11. That is my report about the target profit pricing and the unit cost pricing. Thank you for listening.
Good afternoon, ma'am. Good afternoon, classmates. My name is Potiphar P. Perez from DSIE 3, reporting about internal factor 2, company's objective. Today, we will tackle the 3 company's objective, which is differential pricing strategy, competitive pricing strategy, and product line pricing strategy. A business can use a variety of pricing strategies when selling a product or services. To determine the most effective pricing strategy for a company, executive needs to first identify the company's pricing position, pricing segment, and pricing capability. To maximize the company's objective, we need to focus on financial resources like funding, investment opportunities, and source of income. To define what is differential pricing strategy is the same brand is sold at different prices to different market segments. It is also defined that it enables company to profit from their consumers' unique valuation by offering different customers different prices for the same product. It also defined that the certain customer pay less for the same product than others pay. Within differential pricing strategy, we got random discounting, second market discounting, periodic discounting, and price skimming. Random discounting is defined that cannot be predicted by consumers. The firm or companies maximizes the number of people informed at its lowest price instead of the competitor's lowest price. Second market discounting, only the second market segment enjoys through lower prices. The demand is lower than the quantity that the firm is able to produce. Under the periodic discounting and skimming pricing, the periodic discounting is the manner of discounting is predictable over time and known to the consumers, and the discount can be used by consumers. So yung example nito, yung mga discount natin sa SM na pag bagong labas, wala pa siyang discount, full price pa siya. Tapos after a few months, maybe 2 or 3, magkakaroon siya ng 15% discount. Then eventually, pag nagkaroon na ng holiday sale, doon nalalabas yung pinakamalaking discount nila, which is 50 to 70% discount. Sa price skimming naman, it is the same as periodic discounting, only hindi indicated kung kailan magsisale yung mismong product. So High prices are set initially, especially for innovative products without competition, and then lowered over time. For example, yung SM nagbebenta sila ng mga bagong damit, bagong shoes. Ang unang labas niyan, sobrang full price pa yung item. Then eventually, magsiset siya pag onti na lang yung supply. For example, limited na yung sizes. Magkakaroon sila ng malaking discount. So next is competitive pricing strategy. So what is competitive pricing strategy? Prices are set to exploit a firm's competitive position. It is where final prices on their product or services have been analyzed, modified, and evaluated against the prices of their competitors. So yung example nito, yung firm masyado na study na nila kung magkano nila ipa-price yung mga items na ibebenta nila. Under the competitive pricing strategy, we got price signaling, which defines prices are set high regardless of high or basic product. So, consumer buys based on the quality rather than the price. So, example, kaya madaming bumibili ng branded na damit, branded na shoes, such as Nike or Adidas. Kasi well-known na yung quality nito sa industriya ng fashion. So kahit sobrang mahal niya pa, people tend to buy it kasi nga yung quality nila ay mataas. The next one is under two variation of price signaling. Number one is image pricing under the product line pricing, which is defined is a widely practiced market strategy wherein the prices are set higher because it is believed that a premium price would also increase consumers' desire. So yung example ng image pricing ay yung VIP or limited edition. At yun ay mga collaboration sa mga artists, which makes the product line pricing or yung mismong product ay mabibenta ng mas mahal dahil nga ito'y limited at yung target market niya ay yung mas mayayabang consumers. The next is reference pricing. A firm places a high price model serving as a reference point next on existing much higher price revision. Price which users compare with the same price of the competitor's product or the previously advised price. For example, yung Oppo pati yung Vivo, nag-produce sila ng bagong model ng phone which is yung, for example, yung F7 tapos yung Vivo V7. So from there, yung mga consumers, yung mako-compare nila yung parehas na product and then doon sila makakapag-decide kung mas mura ba, kung ano yung mas mahal pati yung mas mura. So next sa internal factor 2 company's objective ay yung penetration pricing, which is introduced by Joel Dean in November to December 1950, exploits economies of scale by having a cheaper cost, superior technology, and efficient organization. So penetration pricing is a market strategy pricing used by business to attract consumers to a new product or service by offering a lower price during its initial offering. So sa mga businesses, may napapansin tayong opening sale or parang discount pag nag-avail ka kaagad nitong products or services na to. So ayun yung inintroduce ni Joel Dean na penetration pricing. Next is yung experience curve pricing. Exploits a firm production experience as cost decrease due to cumulative volume. The pricing of a product at a lower than average cost level on the basic that cost will decrease as a product experience to increase. So dito sa experience curving ay yung more on sa supply and demand siya. So lastly, sa internal factor 2 company's objective under nito yung geographic pricing, so which is zone pricing strategy, can be adopted when there are adjacent markets separated by transport cost rather than reservation or transaction cost. So dito naman sa geographic pricing. Same goods and services but priced differently based on the buyer's geographic location. So yung example nito, di ba? Yung sa UAE, di ba alam naman natin na ang mura ng gold sa UAE, pero pagdating dito sa Pilipinas or pagdating sa ibang bansa, sa USA, mas mahal na. Dito na papasok yung geographic pricing, which nga na since nga madaming gold sa UAE, since nga yung supply mataas, so yung demand niya, hindi naman ganun kababa yung demand niya. So ang tendency, mas mura yung pricing ng gold sa UAE than other countries. So ayun yung geographic pricing. So doon na nag-end yung report ko. I hope you learned something. Thank you for listening.
Good day, everyone. I am Shermaine Kaido, and I'll be discussing the subject of product line pricing. What is product line pricing? Product line pricing involves the separation of goods and services into cost categories in order to create various perceived quality levels in the minds of consumers. When companies use product line pricing, their goal is to maximize profits for an entire product line rather than to focus on individual product items, which means that the price of one product can have huge impact on sales and profits of other products in the line. This also gives marketers pricing flexibility. There are various product line pricing strategies available, and the best option will differ based on one's company's position in the market and the nature of their product. One strategy is called image pricing. It is use of high price to signal high quality and uses the profit it makes from higher priced versions to subsidize the price of lower priced version. Next is price bundling. The basic idea of price bundling is that buying the whole bundle is cheaper than buying the parts separately. In simpler manner, price bundling is used to sell lots or bundle of items at higher margins while providing consumers a discount at the same time. Premium pricing. The firm sets a high price emphasizing on unique product features. Unlike most pricing strategies, which involve pricing competition, for example, lowering prices in order to ensure a better market position, premium pricing means taking the high price position and sticking to it. Commonly, especially for Filipinos' mentality, premium pricing leaves customers with impression that the expensive the product cost, the higher quality it offers. Another is the complementary product pricing. Is a method in which one of the products is priced to maximize the sales volume and which in turn stimulates the demand of other products. One example of this is printer and cartridge, wherein the strategy the buyer is become successful in a matter that when a buyer bought a printer, the buyer is in turn required to buy the complementary cartridge as well. Captive pricing, on the other hand, the firm tries to price their product low to attract buyers and recover from the bigger volume expected in the accessories or consumables. This means that a company will have a basic product that they will sell at a low price or given away for free. The company might lose money on the base product, but they make profit on additional ones. The two-part pricing. Pricing commonly used by service-based firms. There is a fixed fee plus a variable fee charged to the customers. One example of two-part pricing is on phone contract that charges a fixed monthly charge and a per minute charge for use of the phone. Next one. The loss leader pricing. Retailers want to generate store traffic and recover from consumers' purchase on other items not included in the price of. The prime purpose of loss leader pricing is to gain market penetration and attain a customer base. However, the strategy needs to be properly executed, or it may lead to the company's loss. Generic strategy, the bigger picture of pricing. This is introduced by Professor Michael Porter of Harvard University. Porter's strategies are categorized to two scopes. The broad scope, which consists, first, the broad cost, wherein companies aim to produce and sell products at cheaper price than competition. And the second one, broad differentiation, that is about making one's products stand out from the competition. And the other category of Porter's strategies is narrow scope, which consists of, first, focused cost, that is used to provide low cost product, but the target market is narrower. And the second one is focus differentiation, whose approach is towards selling unique or different products. In terms of product choice, companies can choose between having a basic product and be a low-cost producer, where low-cost strategy, a firm would concentrate on producing products with basic features that are acceptable to their target customers. Advantages of low-cost strategy usually increase sales, cut operational costs, expand customer base, and interact closely with target audience. Another term of product choice, companies can choose in having a superior or differentiated product. A firm would offer distinct features that are readily perceived and valued by its customers. It is the process of distinguishing a product or service from others to make it more appealing to a specific target market. Here is the characteristics of the consumers along with their compatible pricing to apply with. Some consumers have high search costs. Some consumers have a low reservation price for the product. And all consumers have certain special transaction costs other than search costs. The following, on the other hand, is the parallel pricing criteria based on companies' benefits. So, for example, if the objective of a company is to have a dominance in the market, the company should charge lower price slowly, and they should charge higher prices highly or speedily. And if the previous slide indicates the pricing criteria based on companies' benefits, this proceeding is the price criteria based on products' specifications. For example, product appeal, price sensitive, price insensitive, and so on. Thank you.
Good day, my name is John Alfred Porcalia, and today I will be discussing when to increase and cut price. So first, let me talk about inflation. It may be one of the most familiar words in economics. Inflation is the rate of increase in prices over a given period of time. Inflation is typically a broad measure such as the overall increase in prices or the increase in the cost of living in a country. But it can also be more narrowly calculated. For example, for certain goods such as food or for services such as school tuition. Whatever the context, inflation represents how much more expensive the relevant set of goods and services has become over a certain period, most commonly a year. So, how does inflation occur? Two of those reasons are importing of raw materials and exporting of products. But before that, let me explain the meaning of imports and exports. Imports are the goods and services that are purchased from the rest of the world by a country's residents rather than buying domestically produced items. Imports lead to an outflow of funds from the country since import transactions involve payments to sellers residing in another country, while exports are goods and services that are produced domestically but then sold to customers residing in other countries. Exports lead to an inflow of funds to the seller's country since export transactions involve selling domestic goods and services for foreign buyers. So how does importing of raw materials and exporting of products impacts the inflation? Imports make a country dependent on other countries' political and economic power. That's especially true if it imports commodities such as food, oil, and industrial materials. It's dangerous if it relies on foreign power to keep its population fed and its factories humming. When there are too many imports coming into a country in relation to its exports, which are products shipped from that country to a foreign destination, it can distort a nation's balance of trade and devalue its currency. The devaluation of country's currency can have a huge impact on the everyday life of a country's citizens because the value of a currency is one of the biggest determinants of a nation's economic performance and its gross domestic product. Maintaining the appropriate balance of imports and exports is crucial for a country. The importing and exporting activity of a country can influence a country's GDP, its exchange rate, and its level of inflation and interest rates. Two other factors are exchange rate and high production of money. If there's a decrease in the value of currency relative to other currencies, means the currency buys less foreign exchange, therefore imports are more expensive and exports are cheaper, and it may cause imported inflation. The price of imported goods will go up because they are more expensive to buy from abroad. Another is higher domestic demand. Cheaper exports increases demand for export products. There is also a reduction in demand for imported goods, shifting consumption to domestic goods. Inflation also happens when the money supply in an economy grows at faster rate than the economy's ability to produce goods and services. In our auction economy, the production of goods and services was unchanged, but the money supply grew from round 1 to round 2. Because the money supply grew and the output of goods and services did not grow, our economy may experience inflation. To summarize, the money supply is important because if the money supply grows at a faster rate than the economy's ability to produce goods and services, then inflation will result. Also, a money supply that does not grow fast enough can lead to decreases in production, leading to increases in unemployment. So, those are the reasons why inflation occurs. So, let's talk about foreign exchange. If devaluation occurs with the peso, the cost of imported materials used for production will also increase. Devaluation leads to a decline in the value of a currency, making exports more competitive and imports more expensive. So, generally, a devaluation is likely to contribute to inflationary pressures because of higher import prices and rising demand for exports. However, the overall impact depends on the state of the economy and other factors affecting inflation. Besides, due to higher prices of imported goods, people tend to substitute domestically produced goods for the now more expensive imports. As a result, the aggregate demand or expenditure on domestically produced goods and services will increase, causing either expansion in output of goods or rise in their prices or both. However, if the company is working close to the capacity output, the effect will be on raising prices of goods. Next is shortages. Along with unprecedented labor market shortages, these forces can increase inflation even with well-oiled supply chains. Supply chain issues can exacerbate price increases. Even industries without large changes in demand might be forced to reduce supply and increase prices in response to shortages of key inputs. And lastly, product repositioning. Companies choose to reposition products for a variety of reasons. If a product is performing poorly or causing the company to lose money, it may be cost-effective in the long term to reposition the item or service. If there has been a major shift in cultural trends or the economy, it may be necessary to reposition a product to make it more relevant. In some cases, companies find it easier and cheaper for the brand to discontinue the product and launch a new one instead. Whether or not repositioning, the best strategic choice depends on the company and its circumstances. After they are initially introduced to the market, products, services, and brands are constantly being repositioned as a result of changes in competitive and market situations. Repositioning involves changing the market's perceptions of an offering so that it can compete more effectively in its present market or in other target segment. Lastly are the reasons why companies are lowering or cutting their price, including lower cost, falling market shares, excess capacity, excess inventory, discouraged competition, socialized pricing, new market segment, availability of new substitutes, subsequent sales, competitive trends, and lastly, increased competitive vulnerability.
So, hello, good day, everyone. I am your reporter for today. My name is Kyle Nicole P. Feliciano, and I'm going to report when to sell below cost. So, ano nga ba yung mga factors para magbenta tayo ng mas mababa pa sa costing ng isang produkto? So, kailan nga ba yung nagbababa ng presyo na mas mababa pa sa pinuhunan natin? Or in short, paluging benta ba? Or palugi nga ba? So first one is perishable goods. So perishable goods means such of the goods as shall be intact or law liable to deteriorate in quality and or value and shall include but not be limited to fruits, vegetables, dairy products, meat, etc. So a perishable goods is any product in which quality deteriorates due to the environmental conditions through time. such as meat and meat byproducts, fish and seafood, dairy products, fruits and vegetables, flowers, pharmaceutical products, and chemicals. So sometimes most of the sellers or producers sell this product below cost because these are products that have a short lifetime. Meaning to say, they can easily or quickly expire. So, syempre, imbes na ibenta mo sa mas mataas na presyo tapos wala namang bumili, mabubulok lang. E di ibenta mo na lang ng mas mababa. Baka sakaling maubos pa bago mabulok, di ba? At least, kumita ka dun sa dapat na mabubulok na produkto mo. So, next is phase out products. So, phase out products. Companies may dispose the leftover inventories below cost with the objective of minimizing losses instead of maximizing profit. So, best example for this one is the iPhones. So, since si Apple every time naglalabas ng bagong design and product, upgraded phones, um, yung talagang masakit sa bulsa, 'di ba? Maglalabas sila. For example, ngayon may nilabas silang iPhone 13 Pro and it costs around 73,000 pesos. So masyadong malaki. And yung mga products na before na nila inilabas tulad ng iPhone 4S, 5, 5S, 6S, around 3 years or 4 years ago nilang nilabas is phase out na. So wala na talagang nag-create noon, wala na silang may mga stock sila noon pero as in wala na silang kumbaga hindi na sila nagke-create ng mga ganong products. So yung mga tira, imbes na ma-stock and masira lang, binebenta nila ng mura para lang maubos na since di na naman sila nagpo-produce ng mga ganong products. Also, selling below cost is a practice whereby a firm sells products at less than cost of manufacture or purchase in order to drive out competitors and to increase market share. So this practice may arise partly because of deep pockets or subsidization using profits derived from sale of other products. So next is the damaged products. So damaged products is also known as defective goods, a product considered to be less than perfect. So selling damaged products or what we say not perfectly products is much profitable than selling it in normal price. Best example niyan is clothing. Some of the factories na nagsusupply sa mga malls, sa mga supermarkets, they should have a clothing or a product that is good and high quality talaga. So, pag si factory nakakapag-track yan ng mga damaged products, automatic yan. Hindi na nila yan isinusupply sa mga consumers nila like yung mga mall supermarkets na sinusupplyan nila. So, mostly ang ginagawa nila is binebenta na lang nila yon sa mga local sellers gaya ng mga sa Divisoria, sa yung mga local market sa Taytay, sa Changi, mga ganun. So tinatawag nila yun na overruns. Tapos half of its mall price or mas mababa pa nila ni binebenta yon. So wise thing kasi syempre, etong si producers o yung mga factories na gumagawa ng clothing, imbes na itatapon kasi nila kasi damage, di naman tatanggapin sa talagang business partners or malls na sinusupply nila, ibebenta na lang nila sa local markets below cost, diba? So, kumita pa sila din sa mga damaged products. So, next, fighting price attacks. So, ano nga ba yung mga price attacks natin dyan? So, first one is flanker brand. So, flanker brand is the extension of an existing brand to create another product or brand with increased market share. So the new product may be a different size, flavor, or type, but still falls within the same category of products. So flanker products. So yan naman yung tinatawag nilang multi-branding. So for example is this. In our company, the company that I'm working in right now, we're in FedEx Corporation. So they started as FedEx Express kung saan nagde-deliver sila ng mga packages aircraft to aircraft, like plane to plane. Pero hindi nila dinideliver yan door to door. And then afterwards, nag-multi-brand sila, kumita sila ng malaki, nagkapuhunan sila. Nagkaroon sila ng iba't ibang multi-brands. So nagkaroon sila ng FedEx Freight, yung kung saan nagta-transport na sila ng mga packages like barko, cargo, ship, and FedEx Ground. Nagdo-door to door na talaga silang delivery sa US. And we have FedEx services. So may mga printing services sila, nagkaroon sila ng office. So nagkaroon talaga sila ng multi-brands. So next is selective response. So in responding to a competitor's price attack, firms need not retaliate in the entire industry. They can choose specific areas to protect and defend their turf. So, dun naman sa selective selective response or yung sinatawag nating selective advertising, the major advantage of this one is the initiatives is high return on advertising investment. Selective response reduces the extra time and money spent on constructing and producing advertising messages. So it is directed to the audience who may be outside the brand's target market. And in addition to making a product or brand stand out from its competitors, specialized focus on a specific market area can build a brand's reputation throughout the market and foster long-term brand loyalty. So next one is the quality. So we also have quality. Quality is a firms can warn consumers of the risk of buying at lower prices by associating them with lower quality products. And next is the alliance, or brand alliance. And last one is the cost advantage. So yan yung mga fighting price attacks natin. So next, the practice of foolish penetration. Penetration. So marketers may be tempted to price their products low during the introductory period, regardless of product quality and choices of available distribution methods. The obvious intention is to gain market shares quickly. So, dyan naman daw sa foolish penetration, ayan naman, ang ginagawa kasi ng mga, for example, may isang bagong mall na nagbukas or bagong shop na nagbukas. For example, shoe shop. So, ang ginagawa ng mga business owner dyan or ng mga sellers dyan is, ang ginagawa nila, sa una, 50% off, or buy 4 in 1,000, buy 3 in 1,000, 3 pairs in 1,000. So, sobrang baba ng mga price ng products niya at first. Kasi, ang goal naman dyan, hindi siya palugi, hindi siya malulugi. Kasi, para siyang tumataya na ang goal niya dyan is once maraming tao nakaalam na, ay, ang mura dito, ang baba ng price ng product dito, makakabili na ako ng 4 na sapatos sa shop na to, sa halagang ganito lang, napakababa, ganyan, may 4 na sapatos na ako, 3 sapatos na ako. Nagkakaroon ng kumbaga, mouth advertisement sa ibang tao. So in that, nagkakaroon 'di ba ng market shares and napapabilis yung pagkalat ng pinaka-product nila or pinaka-business nila. So, yun na yung nagiging bawi nila doon sa mababa nilang presyo. So, that is the practice of foolish penetration. So, next one, external factors. Number 1, market demand. So, these are the ways in setting prices under market demand-based pricing strategy. So, first one is the perceived value. So this is where marketers use the perception of customers in establishing its prices. So perceived value is measured by the price the public is willing to pay for a good or service. So the marketing of a product or service involves attempting to influence and increase its perceived value, which can emphasize qualities such as its aesthetic design, accessibility, or convenience. So ano nga ba yung mga example ng perceived value? So customer perceived value defined as when making a purchase, a customer values a product's benefit higher than its function. For example, a customer doesn't buy a drill to have a drill. So he buys a drill to have the capacity to make holes. So yun. Sa customers perceived value din, when making a purchase, a customer values a product's benefit higher than its function. So for example, yung gaya nga ng sinabi ko, customer doesn't buy a drill to have a drill, but he buys a drill to have the capacity to make holes. So from the most companies, people do not merely buy software, but rather solutions. So how customers weigh a given solution may not depend entirely on how well the solution fits their needs. In fact, there are many factors at play in determining how a customer perceives a product's value. So customer perceived value often has little to do with actual price. Instead, it deals with abstract cost. So customer perceived value can be determined by the relationship between perceived benefits and perceived cost. So the customer perceived benefits minus the customer perceived cost is equals to the customer perceived value. So next, demand differential. So demand differential is where marketers choose a price level that would support their planned sales volume and profit. So sa demand differential, this is a pricing strategy in which a company sets different prices for the same product on the basis of differing customer type, time of purchase. This is also called flexible pricing or multiple pricing. So ano nga ba yung example niyan? For example, stores often reduce the price of a product for customers who buy more than one. For example, grocery store might charge 50 pesos per box. That is regularly 10 pesos. So if you buy 6 boxes, magiging 10 pesos na lang siya. Then, tas meron naman yung if we have cards, di ba meron tayong mga Robinson cards, SM cards, di ba? Mga Watson's cards. If you punch it like 20 times, 30 times na nagagamit, may points, di ba? And that is what you have. I mean, pagka nakaabot sila ng points, pwede convert na mapapamili na rin nila. For example, sa Starbucks, we have this 12 stickers na kailangan nating punan. And after that, may planner tayo. May libre tayong planner or may libre tayong frap. So, yun naman yung demand differential. So, ano nga ba yung purpose ng differential pricing, the demand differential? So this is a two-price system that focuses on segmented price management, allowing your company or your store to charge different prices for the same product. So the purpose is to streamline your business operations and increase revenues based on customers' demand for the product. So next, external factor 2, competition. So aftermarket demand is competition. So this is ways in setting prices using competition-based pricing strategy. So number 1 is going rate. Number 2, marketers begin and work within the prevailing market price. And the last one is the common practice with homogeneous products with very little variation from one producer to another. So competition, setting prices using competition. This is a competition-based pricing. This is a pricing method as well that involves setting your prices in relation to the prices of your competitors. So this is compared to other strategies like value-based pricing or cost-plus pricing, where prices are determined by analyzing other factors such as the consumer demand or the cost of production. So competition-based pricing as well, or this is easy to calculate and understand. So all you have to do is look at the competitors in your market and find the average price they use for their service. From there, you can choose whether to go with a lower or higher price or align with the customer's expectations. So next one, why should we use competitive pricing? So sa competitive pricing, this pricing strategy helps you prevent losing market share and customer to the competitors, as it lets the business control the competition. So price is considered to be one of the most important criteria for online shoppers while making their final purchase decision. So yun naman talaga kahit hindi sa online, kahit sa mga physical store. Syempre, kung saan ang alam ng mga consumers na mura, dun sila magbibili, 'di ba? Magbibili ng mga products or ng mga needs nila. Kasi alam nila na mura do'n. So siyempre as a marketer, you have to align or to be lower, not to be higher. Para ikaw ang pupuntahan ng tao, ikaw ang bibilhan ng tao, 'di ba? So that is the factor for the competition. So next one, external factor number 2, competition, sealed bid. So marketers price their products or services. Marketers price their products or services depending on how competitors are expected to price their required, but okay, ulit. Francesca, pakikat to. So next, sealed bid. Marketers price their products or services depending on how competitors are expected to price theirs. So this is required by government offices. So this sealed bid, this bidding is a common procurement practice that involves inviting multiple vendors or service providers to submit offers of any particular material or service. So the sealed bidding or the competitive bidding allows transparency, equality of opportunity, and the ability to demonstrate that the outcomes represent the best value. So sealed bidding is also a method of contracting that employs competitive bids, public opening of bids, and awards. So the following steps are involved: preparation of invitation for bids. Invitation must describe the requirements of the government clearly, accurately, and completely. So why would a company wants to use sealed bid or sealed bidding? So sealed bids are also used to ensure a fair and open competition. So where the buying organization does not have the opportunity to influence the bidding process or steer the selection of a particular company by sharing competitive bid information during the evaluation process. So that is all of my report for today.
Good day, everyone. I am Kimberly Sihan Navia, and I will going to report about the international pricing. In international pricing, prices differ across countries between companies. Companies that sell to multinational clients or sell their products globally will have to decide how to price their product in each market. The purchase power, the needs and preferences differ between countries, and so does willingness to pay for a given product or service. To maximize their profit, pricing research must be conducted for each market. Incoterms, or international commercial terms, are intended primarily to clearly communicate the task, cost, and risk associated with the global or international transportation and delivery of goods. The terms define the trade contract responsibilities and liabilities between a buyer and a seller. They cover who is responsible for paying freight costs, ensuring goods in transit, and covering any import or export duties. For example, They are valuable as once importer and exporter have agreed on an Incoterm, they can trade without discussing responsibilities for the cost and risk covered by the term. Second is FOB or free on board. Seller has to shoulder all the costs and risk of loss and damage to the goods until the goods have finally arrived on board or vessel, and the buyer will bear all costs from that moment onwards. For the easier understanding, free on board or FOB is a shipment term used to indicate whether the seller or the buyer is liable for goods that are damaged or destroyed during shipping. Next, C&F or cost and freight. Term of sale signifying that the price invoiced or quoted by a seller for a shipment does not include insurance charges, but includes all expenses up to a named port of destination. The risk of the loss or damage to the goods transfers from the seller to the buyer when the goods pass the ship's railing in the shipping port. For example, if a buyer and a seller agree to include cost and freight in their transaction, this provision means the seller is not responsible for securing insurance for the cargo for loss or damage during transportation. Next is CIF or cost insurance and freight. Includes the cargo insurance covering the shipment from the point of origin to the port of destination. The risk of loss and damage pass when the goods are on board the vessel. Aside from freight and clearance costs, the seller needs to procure and pay for marine insurance against the buyer's risk of loss of or damage to the goods while in transit. And remember that costs insurance and freight, or the CIF, is an international commerce term and only applies to goods shipped via a waterway or ocean. Let's now proceed to psychological pricing or noticeable price difference. The practice of setting prices slightly lower than rounded numbers in the belief that customers do not round up these prices and so will treat them as lower prices than they really are. It is a practice of using the power of psychology to push consumer to spend. It's a joint effort of pricing, marketing, and sales to build an attractive offer that captures consumer attention and make a product so desirable that the shopper can't wait another day to buy it. A technique used most especially in supermarkets and department stores to create an impression of good value. For example, sa isang mall may nagbebenta ng gown. Instead of pricing it 1,000, they will just put 999 to make it look cheaper. And this is the advantage and disadvantages of psychological pricing. Advantages: price bands. In price bands, if a customer is accessing information about product prices that are segregated into bands, the use of fractional pricing can shift the price of a product into a lower price band, where customer may be more likely to make a purchase. For example, if a customer only wants to consider automobiles that cost less than 20,000, Pricing a vehicle at $999 will drop it into lower price band and potentially increase its sales. Second is non-rational pricing. If customers are swayed by the incremental price reduction advocated under psychological pricing, which is debatable premise, then sales should increase. Third is control. In control, it is much more difficult for an employee to create a fraudulent sales transaction and remove cash when product prices are set at fractional levels, since it is more difficult to calculate the amount of cash to steal. Conversely, it is easier to steal funds when prices are set at rounded peso amount. Lastly, discount pricing. If a company is having a sale on selected goods, it can alter the ending digit of product prices to identify them as being on sale. Thus, any product ending with an 0.98 price will receive a 20% discount at the checkout counter. While its disadvantage is price calculation, it can be difficult for cashiers to calculate the total amount owed when fractional prices are used, as well as to make change for such purchases. This is less of a problem when credit cards and other types of electronic payments are used. Next is rational pricing. If customers are more rational than psychological pricing gives them credit for, then they will ignore fractional pricing and instead base their purchases on the value of the underlying products. That is my report, and thank you for listening.
Good day, everyone. I'm Erica Tenko, and I'm here to discuss about price elasticity. So, what is price elasticity? Price elasticity of demand is the analysis to measure the effects of changes in demand determining the variables. Moreover, price elasticity is also the measure of responsiveness. By understanding price elasticity, we can use it when we want to see how one thing changes when we change something else. So let's move on by computing price elasticity. By computing price elasticity of demand, we use the formula price elasticity of demand is equals to percent change in quantity sold over percent change in price. Before we discuss some sample problems, there are four types of price elasticity of demand. We have what we call inelastic demand. It is determined to say that if the result value of demand is less than 1, it is inelastic. It occurs when there's an increase in price and the quantity demanded decreases. The second one is what we call elastic demand. It is determined to say that if the result value of demand is equal to 1, it is elastic. It occurs when the quantity is sensitive to change in price. For example, when the price increases, the quantity decreases. And when the price goes down, the quantity demanded goes up. Next is what we call perfectly inelastic demand. It represents as equal to 0 because the price increases When the price increases, it not affect the quantity. The last one is what we call perfectly elastic. It is occurs when there's no change at price at all. The coefficient result as infinity. So let's proceed to sample problems. Catherine advertised to sell cookies for 4 pesos a dozen. She sells 50 dozen and decided that she can charge more. She raised the price to 6 pesos a dozen and sells 40 dozen. What is the price elasticity of demand? Price elasticity solution. We are given quantity initial with 50 dozen, initial price 4 pesos, change in quantity 40 dozen, change in price 6 pesos. So we use ending quantity minus beginning quantity over ending quantity plus beginning quantity over 2 over ending of price minus beginning of price divided by ending of price plus beginning of price divided by 2. So let's substitute the values. So we have 40, the ending quantity, minus 50, the initial quantity. Solve for the difference, we have negative 10 over 40, which is the ending quantity, plus 50, the initial quantity. Solve for the sum, we have 90 all over 2. Same process with the price. We have 6 pesos, the ending price, minus 4 pesos, the initial price. Solve for the difference, we have 2 over 6, the ending price, plus 4, the initial price. Solve for the sum, which is 9 all over 2. So let's simplify the percentage of quantity and change in price. So we have negative 10 over 45 over 2 over 5. The negative 10 over 5 is equals to negative 0.22 and 2 over 5 is equals to 0.4. When we divide the change quantity and change price, it results to 0.55. 0.55 is less than 1, so it is inelastic. As I discussed earlier, it is determined elastic when it is less than 1. The reason behind that is the price increases while the quantity decreases. That would be all. Thank you.
Good day, everyone. I'm Francesca Arim Lamosende, and I'm going to report about price expectations, price sensitivity meter, and brand price trade-off. Price expectations can be identified using pricing research. A pricing research is a method of research that measures and evaluates the impact of changes in price of a product on its demand. Madalas, ginagamit ito ng mga company para makatulong na ma-determine yung optimal price para sa mga products or services in order to maximize revenue and market share. The objective of price expectations is to know the fair range of the upper and lower threshold limits of pricing. Price expectation is also used as reference points to help make final purchase decisions. Price sensitivity meter, a market technique for determining consumer price preferences. It was introduced in 1976 by Dutch economist Peter van Westendorp. It is a chart of 4 lines with 4 intersections. It helps to determine psychologically acceptable range of prices for a single product or services. It is particularly useful when you want to assess what price range market considered to be fair for your product. Second is when your product is the only such product or on the market or the number of competitive offerings is very large. At third, you need quick directionally correct results. The first step in using price sensitivity meter is surveying people about their willingness to pay in ranges. Each respondent in the survey is asked 4 questions. First question is, at what price would you think that brand is a bargain or a great buy for the money? This question determines the cheap price. Second question is, at what price would you think that the brand is starting to get too expensive that while you might still consider it, you might have to give it more thought now before buying it? To determine the expensive price, the third question is, at what price would you think that brand is so expensive that you would not consider buying it at all? This question determines the too expensive price. And finally, the last question is, at what price would you say that you will start to feel that brand is priced so low that you would feel the quality could not be very good anymore? This question helps to determine the too cheap price. The main output of the method is a chart of 4 intersecting lines. Each of the lines shows cumulative frequency for each of the 4 price levels across the respondents. The intersections of the 4 lines have the following. First is the point of marginal cheapness, means the lowest boundary of an acceptable price range. This means that the price point where sales would negatively impacted due to a customer's perception of lack of quality versus the value desired from it. Second is the indifference price point, means an equal number of respondents rating the price point as either cheap or expensive. Customers believe that the price is becoming too expensive is the equivalent to the proportion of customers who feel the price is a bargain. The third is the optimal price point, means there is an equal trade-off and extreme sensitivity to the price at both ends of the price spectrum. It is also known as the normal price. Last is the point of marginal expensiveness, means the upper boundary of an acceptable price range, the point where customers will generally feel that the price of the product or service outweighs the benefit. So this is an example of a product sensitivity meter graph by Van Westendorp. As you can see, there are 4 lines with 4 intersections. The blue line represents the cheap price. The pink line represents too cheap price. The green line represents the too expensive price. And the turquoise line represents the expensive price. The intersection between green and pink line is the optimal price, and the intersection between pink and turquoise line is the point of marginal cheapness, while the intersection between blue and turquoise line is the indifference price point. Lastly, the intersection between green and blue line is the point of margin's expensiveness. Brand price trade-off PPTO model, a statistical technique used in market research and marketing sciences. It models the relationships between your brands and the prices they command relative to other brands, providing a measure of relative brand value of brand equity. BPTO is useful in any situation where there is a strong interest in the interrelationship between brand and the price that a product or service is offered at. Brand price trade-off has advantages and disadvantages. The advantages is simplicity of the technique, while the disadvantages are consumers may become conscious and may start playing around with the lowest price, and consumers may be protective of their brand and may always prefer a brand and take it to unrealistic pricing levels. That would be all. We are the group 5. We hope you learned something and thank you for listening.